This is the part that so many people struggle with, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. They think they've got all those push rods in place, but a lot of times it's cocked up on the edge of the cup instead of actually in the cup. Like it'll be sitting right here, and as soon as they go to fire the engine, it goes plink and comes out, and then it's down the cylinder. Well, the time has come to put our valve covers back on. Now, as you can see, these are a darn sight better than they were when I took them off. There's still a little bit of oil buildup here in certain areas, but it's certainly not the 1/4 inch thick sludge that it was originally, and I think this is plenty good enough to stick this thing back on. So we've done it. Our Hemi engine refresh is all back together again. The engine is ready to be dropped back into the vehicle. So there it is, we got this engine stabbed in there, and at this point it's basically just reassembly. It's stuff that you've already taken off, so you know how it goes back together again. I don't really have a whole lot of tips for you on this process. I'm gonna go ahead and just get this thing all back together again. We'll start putting some fluids in this thing, and then we'll see if it'll run. And through the wonders of video, it is all back together again. So now we're completely reassembled, and I went ahead and I put some oil in there, I put some coolant in there. I'm gonna need to top off the coolant because I did not use my vacuum coolant tool. Again, I'm trying to do this as you guys would have to do it yourselves, so we're gonna have to run the engine, let it draw some coolant into the system, cool back down, and then continue adding more. We'll probably have to do that about 2 times, maybe even 3 times to get it fully bled so that the coolant system is all good. But that's not a big deal. That's all set and ready to go. Now, because I have gone through this entire engine, I do want to build some oil pressure in this thing before I actually fire it up. So I went ahead and removed the fuel pump fuse on there. So this way I can crank the engine, build that oil pressure, and not have to worry about it actually trying to fire up on me. Now, if you've watched this channel for a while, you know that one thing I like to do when I get the whole entire thing back together again is before I do anything else, I go ahead and hook up my little code scanner. Whether you want to use a better one or even a cheap one is just fine, to look for any codes, because oftentimes that will tell you if you missed one of the electronic plugs or something like that, and then you can really quickly jump out here and click it in before the engine gets all hot from running it. Now, last thing I want to mention here before I actually try to fire this engine is that because you did have oil in the cylinders when you're putting in the pistons, and the lifters have been sitting for quite some time. Therefore, this engine is going to smoke a lot on initial startup, and it's also going to rattle a lot on initial startup. Both of those things should clear up within a short period of time, hopefully by the time it reaches operating temperature. If it does not clear up by then, we have another issue, and I'm gonna have to do something about it. So first thing here, let's go ahead and crank the engine, get this thing, get some oil pressure in this thing, and then we'll fire it up for real. All right, we cranked it over enough to hopefully get some good oil pressure in the engine. I went ahead and actually, I verified it with my scan tool. I did actually get good oil pressure, but if you crank it over for about 2 minutes, I would say, go intermittently with that. Don't do it all at one time. You can really overheat your starter doing that, but just do short segments and do at least 2 minutes of cranking on there. I think you'll be in pretty good shape. So, moment of truth, guys. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up, see what it does. Well, that was far quieter than I thought it would be. I thought this thing was gonna rattle pretty good. So this is basically all that raw oil that we put on the cylinder walls when we were putting in the new pistons. We're putting in the new piston rings on there. That should all burn off here in just a little bit. Not bad for a first startup though. Pretty clean overall. All right, we're in good shape now. It's actually the next day. I went ahead and did some final touch-up things on here. One thing I realized after I got this thing back together again was that the condenser fan was not operating properly, which is extraordinarily common on these trucks. I would say almost 100% if you're buying one of these trucks that these condenser fans will not work. They're not too bad. The one thing to remember is that you do have to discharge the AC system to replace them, because you have to remove the entire condenser from the vehicle to actually replace the fan and shroud assembly. So it's a bit of a complication there, but overall they're not too bad. I think this part alone was like $82, something like that. But now we have that in there, it's working properly. Now the AC system is working like it should. Now I want to address something. Yesterday when I got it all fired up there, I mentioned that there was going to be some smoke out of the exhaust, and with that smoke that was pumping out of there, honestly, I started to get a little bit concerned, because I was expecting some smoke from there, from the oil in the cylinders, but it was puffing out pretty good and it was lasting for a while. But then I remembered what happened to the previous engine, and I realized what had happened, because when it broke through the cylinder wall into the water jacket, it dumped a ton of coolant into the exhaust. So there was a bunch of coolant in the muffler area, and basically it just had to burn all of that out of the system. Everything is working properly now. There is no smoke. The engine sounds really great, really nice and smooth. I'll go ahead and show you guys right now. As you can see, no smoke coming out of there now, nice and clear. There it is, guys. You see it, the engine is running, this thing is driving. I went out and drove it. It actually drives really, really nicely. One thing also that I did have to do is I had to replace the rear wheel speed sensor, because this thing was setting an ABS and brake light in there. Very, very common for this generation to have that rear wheel speed sensor fail. I just had to slap a new one in there, went out and drove it. That's good. We have no other warning lights on the dash. Everything is driving great. The engine sounds great, runs great. Transmission's working just fine. No other issues. This truck is actually ready to go on to its new home. I wish I had more time for some actual modifications, but this thing is a great base right now for someone else to really take up the baton and do something continuing on from there. Now, the important thing here, the cost. How much are we into this truck for? That's what we really want to know, right? Well, I have the tally for you right here. Now keep in mind that I purchased a lot of my parts through Amazon and AutoZone and stuff like that, and I get special business pricing through those. So my prices may be a little bit lower than what you guys will see, but they should be fairly comparable. All right, so first off, our vehicle price, $1,400. Now the used engine that I went ahead and pulled from the pick and pull place, $380.01. The head gasket set from Amazon, $107.49. The timing chain set, $41.99. The oil pump, the pan gasket, and the rod bearings, $138.97. The Cerakote headlight kit, which I really recommend that. I think they turned out really nice. $19.88. I mean, for 20 bucks, that kind of result, I'll take it. Piston ring set, $79.64. Thermostat, $12.92. A new water pump, $62.84. I did put some new hood shocks on this hood. They were $16.99. Timing cover gasket, including a new front crank seal, was $34.14. That front suspension kit with the upper A-arms, the lower ball joint, the sway bar end links, and also the outer tie rods, all of that together, $88.99. The new rear wheel speed sensor, $23.09. Oil pan gasket, $51.09. The oil filter, some oil, some shop supplies, $92.35. The new condenser fan I was talking about, $88.75. Now, a new vehicle battery, some exhaust bolts, and some coolant, $174.84. And some wire wheels that I used to clean a lot of the engine components, $22.25. So that's our total right there. What does that bring it all the way up to? $2,836.23. Now, I think you would agree that a nice running, driving truck that you know that the powertrain is solid in for 2,800 bucks has got to be a deal any way you look at it. Now, most of you wanted me to do this independent of the 300, so that is the price total without the cost of the 300. If you do want to know what that cost is built in, so the cost of the Chrysler 300 was $1,000. I ended up taking that vehicle to scrap, and from the scrap recycler, I got $332.20 back. So if you factor in the loss in the Chrysler 300, the grand total for this truck here is $3,504.03. I still think that's pretty good because that's $1,000 under my planned budget for the Cheap Hemi Challenge series. So you have $1,000 that you can use for various modifications on this truck. I think you're in really, really good shape. And you have a nice truck. I think overall this is, you know, it's got some body issues and stuff, but overall, for a 2003 with a powertrain that you know is solid, I think you're in really nice shape here. So that is going to be it for this Cheap Hemi challenge, guys. We are definitely going to continue this series. I'm not going to tell you what we have coming up next, but again, I had to finish up on this one because I am flat out of time. And I'm going to talk to you guys about what's happening there in the next video. Really appreciate you guys always showing so much support. You know the deal, guys. Hit that subscription button, hit that notification bell so you see those new videos as soon as they come out. And we'll see you next time on Reignited.